is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you, exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful, tell everyone to stand and shout loud, shout loud, shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful, tell everyone to stand and shout loud, shout loud, shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down, down. Stand up and shout, stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up, stand up, shout it loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Eric Dawson Radio Show. Today is Tuesday, and we're here with our newest edition, Deidre Viney. And we have on the phone the one and only Vincent Squire. Hey, I like saying hailing from the South. Is that all right with you, Vincent? Does that work?
It worked. It worked fine.
And Vincent Squire is running for U.S. Senate, guys. He's running against, I don't even remember his name at this point, Vincent.
Good. Let's keep that going.
Let's keep it going. In election day, or the primary is coming up soon, guys. Should they have gotten their ballots already in the mail?
Yes, they have.
Right. So everything you have, right? So you should be scrutinizing, especially looking at everything that's going on today. You should be scrutinizing your elected officials and making decisions. If you need to make phone calls and ask folks to do that, we posted before, a litany of media sources that you should consider looking at when trying to, ferret information. So, get on it. Get on it. Listen, the title of today's show is, I forgot what I named it. Contact tracing. So at some point we're going to get to it. We're going to talk about contact tracing. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things. And for you guys who see me clean shaven today, with a tie, a Windsor knot nonetheless. Right? And understand the Windsor knot connotes seriousness. It connotes authority. And so I decided to tie a Windsor knot today because I'm doing a mock interview, and I really wanted to take it very seriously, because in the age of COVID-19, as many jobs are being lost, folks are going to have some opportunities, and we want to make sure that they aren't missed opportunities, that you're adequately prepared when that phone call comes from that recruiter or that hiring manager and you're scheduled for a job interview. There we go. So I don't know how you want to start it, Deirdre, but I am here. I'm prompt. I'm on time. And you have my resume. I forwarded it to you. And
yes,
so
I did.
I am ready. I am ready to go. I'm eager.
So we're going to take it from the top.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm not going to talk about that part anymore.
Okay.
So I'm going to, just like I would call you over the phone, or even we're doing a video call right now. Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Good morning, Mrs. Viney. I'm well, thank you. And you?
Good. Thank you for coming in today, or as we're doing things virtually now with this new situation we have going on with coronavirus. So I imagine your commute wasn't too challenging.
No, actually, this is the best commute I've had in a job interview.
Right? Isn't this wonderful?
Yes.
So, Eric, you're applying for a graphic design position that we have open in my office, and I was super impressed by your experience. I think you have a lot of really great experience that may be valuable to my company. I appreciated the fact that you actually included a bunch of your samples of your work. That helped me to get a good idea of what you have accomplished in the past, and give me kind of a snapshot into what you could possibly do for my company. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So here at ABC XYZ Company, we're looking for a new team member to come into. We're a smaller shop, and we're looking for someone to come in that can really add value from the beginning. It's only about 10 of us.
Okay.
And so every single person that works here is really critical to the development and growth of my company. Okay. So with all that being said, can you just kind of walk me through your resume a little bit, and specifically your most recent work experience?
Sure. Well, as you can see on the resume right now, I do a lot of consulting work. The last full-time position I had was I worked for a venture capital group by the name of Patriarch Partners. They owned 76 companies globally. they put me in charge of 3 of their companies. One was a housewares company, another one was a water filtration company, and the third one was a global fragrance brand. They hired me as the chief marketing officer, and I also functioned as the creative director, vice president of creative services.
Wonderful. So what? So are you still consulting with them now?
I do, well, I don't consult directly with them, but my former president, he since left the company, started his own fragrance company. I consult for him, and I consult for a number of other clients.
So can you give me an idea of your most recent project? Is it one of the examples that you given me, or is that with something completely different?
Oh, no. So it's ongoing. There's an ebb and flow of work from all of my clients. But I'll start with Jamie, who was my former president at Dana Classic Services. So Jamie went off and created a fragrance and body wash brand and asked me to come in and create from soup to nuts an entire look and feel. He had no logo. He had no branding at all. So he asked me to step in and do that. And I did it for a line of bath and body wash products, as well as men's and women's fragrances.
Wonderful. So that kind of segues into probably a really specific question that I have.
Sure.
Maybe can you give me an example of a challenging project for which you were solely responsible for?
Sure, I can. So when I was hired at Dana, or hired by Patriarch Partners, they were facing a lot of challenging issues. One of the biggest ones was the shippers. So those are the corrugated boxes that come in from China that carry the product. Those shippers then would go off to our clients, so Walmart or Walgreens or a number of other stores. Well, Walmart, for instance, had very, very specific guidelines in terms of how their shippers, how they wanted to receive their shippers, and then all of the pertinent hazardous warning labels that were on them. But China didn't understand or really care about conforming. They just sent the shippers. And so what was happening, Mrs. Viney, is those shippers were coming into our warehouse. We had to unpack every shipper. We had to reconfigure a corrugated box, and then we had to ship it off to Walmart. Now, as you can imagine, it created a real wrinkle in the supply chain in us getting our product to Walmart on time, and it created unnecessary waste. So one of the things that I was tasked with doing, along with everything else that they asked me to do when I got there, was figure out a solution to remedy that. And the solution was really right in front of our noses. But I guess they were inundated with an additional amount of work. But when I got there, I had a fresh set of eyes, so I was able to do it. And all I did was created dye lines specific to the 3 top products that we were sending off to Walmart, sent those dye lines off to China, and simply asked them to manufacture boxes according to those dye lines. They did that. They sent us the shippers with the product in them, and they were ready to go to Walmart, saving the company roughly about $325,000 in the first year.
Wow, that's pretty phenomenal. So did they keep with that same process, ongoing?
They did.
As you were there?
They did.
Wonderful.
And over time, things worked out much better. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So we all learn lots of different things. And when you start new organizations, even as a consultant, you may be asked to learn new things.
Sure.
Can you tell me about a time when you might have had to learn something new in a short period of time, either be at work or in your personal life?
I'll stick to work. So, same company at Dana. One of the things that they were doing, and as you know, moving more onto online sales, it really is about presenting the product and competing with other products that your prospective customer might be interested in terms of the photography, right? How it looks, because they don't really have an opportunity to touch it. The first opportunity you have to see it is usually on a website. And so the photography that we had, a lot of it was using smartphones. And, quite frankly, I said to Jamie, listen, we need to step this up. And he said, well, what do you think, Eric? I said, look, what I'd like to do is build an in-house photography studio where we're doing our own product photography. So he said, do you think you can do that? I said, sure, I can. So I was able to secure a room that they were storing, boxes and other supplies in. They consolidated into another room, gave me that. I began the work of researching the adequate and requisite photography equipment, cameras, lenses, lights, umbrellas, all of those things. Put together a studio. And then trained myself along with one of my staff members on product photography, and we started doing our own product photography.
That is phenomenal. That's very impressive. That's a lot of things to learn and be effective at.
Sure.
So, have you ever had an opportunity, we all have goals and organizations to meet. Have you ever had a time when you might have been given maybe an unreasonable expectation of a deadline or unreasonable expectation of a goal at work? And what did you do?
So it's interesting. And thank you very much for asking that question, Mrs. Viney. What we consider to be unreasonable, unless you've worked on the other end, you really don't understand. It's a matter of perspective. And so what I've learned from working at the very bottom in this industry and then becoming an executive is that folks are working with different sets of data. So the folks who are working on the production side, they may believe that it's unreasonable. But the people who are making those decisions and making decisions to keep my job, to make sure that I have a job, to make sure that the company is solvent and that folks are financially secure there. So for them, it's not unreasonable. I think that at the end of the day, it is about having the proper resources to be able to get it done. And so what I've done whenever confronted with a task is to do a quick assessment to determine what it is that's necessary to get it done. So to say that I have to accomplish something in 2 days' time, it may just be a matter of ramping up the resources in order to accomplish it. And then making those needs known to those who requested whatever it was that needed to be done, get done.
So as a follow-up to that, do you find that communication, how did the communication lines work? Because like you said, there's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different people that are involved in the process. How did that process, how did that happen?
Sure. So what I found to be important and what has worked for me in my career is managing expectations, right? So if you were to come to me and said to me, Eric, we need to get this done. It is important for me to use the experience that I have and, if necessary, bring in stakeholders as well as colleagues to talk about it. And then to come back to you, Ms. Viney, and say, hey, listen, I understand that you want to get this done. We can do it one of two ways, and always give you options. So we can do it this way. It may cost more money because I now have to hire additional resources in order to get it done. If we don't have the money in the budget, then we may have to extend the timeline to get it done. But to give you all of the information so that you can direct me in the best way possible to achieve what are the overall company or departmental goals.
That's wonderful. And I know in your field, there's lots of innovation that happens as a result of projects.
Sure.
What's the most exciting project or program you worked on? And what was your role and impact did it have?
Oh, wow. So this takes me back to when I worked for Prentice Hall, the largest educational publisher in the world. There, I started off as a desktop specialist when the companies were just transitioning from traditional production to digital production with the first Macintosh computers coming online. Well, as we evolved and I evolved with the company and became the art director there in the higher education department, we were looking to produce CDs. That's so as technology was advancing, we were looking to take some of the printed product that we had and put it online. And we were tasked with looking at, my department was tasked, I should say, with looking at innovative ways, again, to get it done in-house. We had looked outside to get it done, and as you can imagine, with any new technology, a lot of the houses that were developing CDs were charging an arm and a leg, and we had budgetary restraints, and so I was asked to figure out how to get it done in-house. Quark Express, which was a rival of PageMaker at the time, had come out with an extension to create CDs, interactive CDs. And so me and my staff, we spent some 2.5, 3 months immersing ourselves in that software. We became so proficient, and the CD that we put out was so amazing that we actually had the Quark staff come into New Jersey, into Saddlebrook, to sit with us, because we had taken the extension beyond where it was originally designed to go, and so they had to, on the fly, retool their own extension to accommodate what it was that we were doing. So it was an amazing partnership that we wound up having with Quark Express, and an award-winning product that we delivered to the marketplace as well.
Wow, that's exciting. So I noticed you mentioned a lot of the consulting work you're doing for Dana,
Sure.
and you've done quite a bit of consulting work in the past as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why look for a full-time job now? Why not just continue consulting?
Well, I'm always looking for opportunities. So when this came across my desk, I read up on your company. I was very impressed with a lot of things that you guys do. More than anything else, what I was impressed with, Mrs. Viney, is the employee retention that you have. The marks that you guys got for how you treat employees, how you look at innovation, how you value hard work, all of those things were very, very attractive to me. And though I love the clients that I do work for, if an opportunity like this was available, and if you saw fit to hire me and you saw me to be a good fit, I would really, really consider taking it.
And then my last question,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I'm opening up for a question for you, is what's the most interesting thing about you that's not on your resume?
The most interesting thing about me, wow, that I am dying to be a grandfather. I've always wanted to be a grandfather, and I knew becoming a grandfather required me to be a dad. And I want to be one of those grandparents, Ms. Viney, that can sit on a wraparound porch and just watch my grandchildren play. That's my ultimate goal in life, to be able to do that. And that's not on my resume, but that's what I'm striving for every single day.
That's wonderful. I love that. So, do you have any questions that's specific about the company or about the role?
Well, I do. So in terms of, you said it was it was a 10-person department. I'd like to know what the reporting structure for the position that I'm interviewing for is.
So this will be a more senior role.
Okay.
So you'd have 2 people working underneath of you on a more junior level, and then you would report directly to me.
Okay. And then the other question that I have for you is, in terms of the culture of your company, how do you work with your employees to ensure that that there's input, from the very bottom up to the senior level role that you're talking about, for me, to the corner office, to ensure that all ideas are being considered at all times to make sure that innovation continues there?
And that's a really good question, because since we are an organization that prides itself on innovation, it's really important that we get input from all levels.
Mm-hmm.
So we have weekly meetings. In the weekly meetings, everyone typically is working on a particular project. But even if you're working on a project and someone else is not working on that project, they're allowed to get input when you present your ideas and what you look to do with the client. And so this allows fostering of all different levels of ideas in the room, because we can't silence one person just because they're a junior person. And so our weekly meetings are an opportunity to do that. But even still, I feel that since we're a small organization, we have an opportunity to continually talk to each other. So we don't want to wait until a weekly meeting for it to come up. That's just a platform that I allow my staff to have. If you have an idea, or a point, or something you read about, or something you've seen that you thought was pretty interesting, and you know that, let's say, Eric is working on one particular project, we try to encourage people to come together to foster those ideas by our lunches. We typically try to eat lunch together if possible. I order lunch for my entire staff every single day at no cost. And so it gives them a chance, if they want to come together in the lunchroom to really eat together. And we're trying to, in a way, foster a sense of community and family, because you spend so much time at work. We want to be able for you to not have to think about it on a Wednesday staff meeting, to bring it up to someone Monday at lunchtime.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That's exciting. And so when are you looking to fill this position, Mrs. Viney?
Well, I will tell you that we have seen some exceptional candidates, including yourself, and we are looking to fill this role as soon as possible, given the right candidate and the time restraints they might have to start a job.
Okay. So what I like to ask now is, are there any questions that I didn't answer, or is there anything that I could answer in greater detail that might put me at the top of the list in terms of the candidates that you're considering for this job at the time?
Well, I will tell you that we have seen a lot of candidates with a barrage of technology that they've had experience with. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can elaborate on your level of software and what you're comfortable with. That would help me kind of, make a better decision.
Oh, fantastic. So I am well-versed with the Adobe Creative Suite. I am certified in the Microsoft Suite. I am certified as a project manager. I am not certified in any way with motion graphic software. However, I do have a reel of work that I've done that I think would give you a good sense of what my professionalism is as far as that is concerned. Primarily, I work on Mac OS environment, but I have worked cross-platform on a Windows machine.
Wonderful. Well, like I said, Eric, thank you again for chatting with me just a little bit about your work experience. I think I got a really good understanding of your qualifications, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the time. I look forward to hearing from you. Would it be okay if I don't hear from you, if I give you a call or shoot you an email by end of week?
I think an email would be appropriate.
That's great. Thank you again so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. So, I don't know.
Okay.
But I do have we do have Vincent Squire on the phone. And what I want to say before we get into this, because I did get a call from Deidre this morning, and I did talk to Vincent this morning, and I stressed upon both of them the importance of not being prepped before the interview, to have it be as raw and as real as possible, mainly because mistakes happen, right? And if I made them, I want them to be there so that we could talk about them, talk about what I could do better. If I did a perfect interview, then there would be no teachable moments. And so for me, it was very, very important that at the end of this, we can go through it, right? And then the reality is this: everybody doesn't get every job. I don't care how prepared you are for an interview, there's always a question. Well, sometimes there's a question that throws you for a loop, right? And that's all real. And so I wanted it to be real. So I hope that the time I took to prepare for the interview, the only thing that I got from Deidre was the job title and the job description. And from that, I went to work trying to present myself in the best light. So have at it, guys.
So I wanted to say that, Eric, I thought you did a really great job. I, too, as an interviewer, prepared. And what I mean by prepare on my side is based on the experience and the job description, I did some digging for what I felt were appropriate questions that would allow me to see you for you and to learn a little bit more about you. You know, in some interviews you've done or have conducted, or even you may have, or your listening audience might have been part of, they might just kind of go through every single, thing on your resume. What'd you do here? What'd you do here? Why'd you leave here? Why'd you leave there? That's pretty, I want to say basic, right? It's not still important. But I think what I was trying to get across today was that there are a variety of questions and ways that they can be asked outside of just saying, what did you do with each job? Like I gave what I'm going to call situational questions, as you answered them very eloquently. And I'm going to tell you the reason I chose some of them in particular to your work experience. The one I asked about if you could learn something new in a short period of time, and can you give me an example of that? As we all know, Eric, you're not that young.
Right.
and age discrimination is real. Let's just keep it what it is, right? However, people that are a certain age, they bring a lot of experience to the table. And a lot of times what I hear is that there is this kind of thought that someone that's older can't learn things.
Right.
And that's simply not true. And I think I wanted to convey that in this interview to allow you to explain to me as the interviewer that yes, you learned this, and this, and this, and this is what you've done. And that's exactly what an employer wants to hear. That everyone is going to learn new things, be it software, be it processes, be it working with new people. How are you going to adapt? How are you going to pick up quickly? Yep. And it can't be related to, say, because you're a certain age and now you can't do anything, you can't learn anything new. It's not fair. Another question I asked was about a time when you had to work on unreasonable expectations. I guess you love that question. Yeah. And the reason I asked it is because it shows resiliency. Yeah. Right? And how resilient are you when someone pushes you up against the wall and says, this is due tomorrow, this is due in 2 days? What do? Because those things happen, and they're real. And sometimes you might be the third person in the totem pole, if you will, and you may or may not be able to affect that. You know? And so what are you going to do? And I think you answered that question beautifully as well. The other question was about the most interesting thing about you, and I love that, a grandfather. I like to ask questions, particularly as it relates to just to get to know you more. Remember I mentioned earlier, it's a 10-person operation. That means we're going to work together really closely. And so you need to like the people that you work with, right? Yeah. And so, it's one of the questions that sometimes I ask is, what's the last book you read? Or what's the most interesting book you read? Or what's the most interesting movie you've seen recently? That can get a view, because sometimes people light up, especially if they're a big movie buff or they're a book person. And so those are just a couple of questions I asked to really try to get to know you a little bit better. And so I would love Vincent's comments as the person not on the interview side.
Wait a minute.
Okay. Well, first, I was impressed with actually both of you. But let's start with I'll do the pros and cons of me watching this interview as well as listening to it. Because one of the things that you do in watching the interview is you look at the interviewee's body language. And two things that came up bad with that. But the two things that came up right was that you smiled broadly. confidently. Your appearance is very corporate and professional, down to the tie, the jacket. You know, you always want to wear, you know, navy blue. The red, white, and blue sounds that you're not there to be their black experience, but you are there to be their black experience in growing their corporation, which is what all employers look for. Your eye contact was perfect. You're right on point. You were attentive to her questions, and your explanations were, at some point, were good. And one of the most important things you did, especially in knowing that she is going to be the person that you work with, in interviewing with her, you used her name often. Mm-hmm. And you also expressed to them that, you know, you can work independently, but you're just as good as building teams or even working with new teams. You showed a diversity in problem solving not that can save money with one, equipment, efficiency, time, and managing other people.
Dang, now, Vincent picked all of, you know what, Vincent? Yo, and we didn't talk, but all of those things were very important to me to try to convey. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, now, here's the negatives.
Go.
First thing you did was pick up your coffee comfort, so it's kind of like getting you in a relaxed mode,
right.
But you have to remember that you're going into a professional mode. One of the things that people do is not have a coffee cup, but they'll have gum or candy in their mouth.
Right.
There was one question that you did a body language tell, and which she threw the pitch on was the stress test. When she talked about something that, you know, took you out of your scope of comfort, first thing you did, well, the first question that she gave you, you took it on as a challenge, because not only did you answer it, but you had a little piercing look in your eye, mm-hmm. and you gave a little confident laugh.
Right.
To the question.
Right.
So you were ready for that challenge.
I was ready for that question. That's correct.
Yes.
Now, what was it? Because there was a question that that I had to think about, and I had
No, you didn't think about it. You gave her a line of BS. She threw you a fastball.
Which was the question?
And you gave her a line of BS, and the big telltale sign that you were going to give her the BS is that your eyes went down to the right.
Wait a minute. Which was the question? No, wait. But I want to know the question. Which question was it? Do you remember?
Deidre?
No. Do you remember which question it was?
Yes. The question that came after you talked about your experience with the China packaging, where she was looking for your level of involvement and how you can think on the fly. It came right after. The question of, I forgot what. I didn't write down the actual question that she said. I just wrote down your response.
I see somebody saying, so I want to say this. This notion of right meaning lying, left meaning analytical. Right doesn't mean lying. Right means creative, right? So there is some level of creativity. Now it could be lying, but it is creative, right? It is
correct.
And so,
because you're going to the left brain,
right? But I want to know, because I don't remember what the question was. If we could try to figure out what. Deidre, you on? I think Deidre's talking, but I don't have you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put you on mute.
Okay.
When it says, tell me about a time you had to learn something new in a short period of time, was it that one?
That's the one.
Oh, okay.
When I had to learn something new in a short period of time.
And that's when you talked about your photography.
Oh, no. I didn't hesitate on that one. That was
before that one.
Yeah, that
before
was
the photography
because
question.
that was actually an extraordinary time doing that. And so I want to let you guys know the answers that I was giving, those, and that's why I want to know what that one was, because I gave truthful answers to all of the questions. Maybe me trying to figure out how to phrase it was the challenge, but the photography one was an amazing one. And at the end,
the photography one was true.
Yeah. Oh, that was true.
It was the one before that. Your answer answer was true with that. Your body language said no deception.
Yeah.
It was the question before that, and she gave you, and it was at one point where she knew she had you. So then she gave you a curveball to give more explanation, and that's where you gave her the answer of bringing the two scenarios to them, versus cost effective on a solution versus manpower on a solution.
Oh no! So, that was when we were talking about that. It was if you were challenged with trying to something unreasonable, meeting an unreasonable deadline, and what I was saying there was that, which is true, right? So, then I want to say this to people. Look, you are on one end and they are on another end. And I learned this, again, climbing the ladder. You have, and everybody's in a different place, right? So if you're in a corner office, and so you're working with the CEO, the CFO, and you're a VP or a president, you have one mission, and that is to grow the company, right? Bottom line, grow the company. Then you have the folks who are at the bottom of the totem pole. Their job is to do the work to grow the company. The people in the middle, what they call middle management, is to take the BS from the people up top and then push the directives down to the people below them. And so in the middle management, they get the stinky end of both sticks, right? Because they sit in the office, they try to advocate for the folks who are working down there, but then they're clear that the company has to make, so they have the information about what the company needs to do in order to achieve its quarterly goals. And then they got to go, right, hook or crook, down to those people and tell them you got to work harder, right? So that is the structure. So when somebody says to you, this is unreasonable, well, it's unreasonable from your perspective. But when you look at the overall initiatives of the company, well, then it may not be unreasonable. So now what's required is communication, right? And the management of expectation. So you know what you say to your boss? Hey, I appreciate that you want to get this done. Here's how we can get it done, right? So if you want it done faster, what it is, I forgot what it is. You can't have all three. You can have it fast. Wait, what is it? You can have it good and fast, but not cheap. You could have it cheap, but not what it did. But I forgot how it went.
No. You gave the options and all of that, but the only part that didn't come across true was that you sidestepped the true answer and you gave the actual solution. You didn't say, what particular point that you found unreasonable. You sidestepped that.
Oh no, I didn't. No. So be clear. I didn't sidestep it because I don't think anything is unreasonable.
Okay.
See,
exactly.
So let us be clear. I will say to you, I go, and if you were, I should have sent you to, Deidre, my letters of recommendation, because they will all tell you that I am graceful under pressure, because for me, there is no unreasonableness. It is, let's get it done. Let's get it done.
So I think the point you were making, and that's why I had a follow-up to that question, was because that is a real life thing that happens, right? And a lot of times, what I wanted to hear from you, and you did eventually say it, was that you need to be honest and communicate with the right people, because on their workers, not, like you said, not realizing all the dynamics that are involved, and they might have other things on their plate to do.
Right.
And so I think that it's important, no matter what level you are in within an organization, that you speak up.
Yeah. And
you say, this may be, I'm going to say, unreasonable time frame. Not unreasonable to do, but it's an unreasonable time frame given this, and this. And you've given a specific rationale for your approach. Therefore, then management can go back and say, you know what?
There you go.
You're right.
And there's a different, you know what that is? That is the glass half full versus half empty, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
if you,
and your ability and what she was looking for was your ability to speak truth to power.
so if you embrace unreasonable, so what I did do was I took the word, which is a negative word, right? And so to Vincent's point, I didn't address the negativity. Please mute your phone. I didn't address the negativity of it, right? Because you hear unreasonable, and everybody from middle management down is ready to nod their head and go, yeah, that's unreasonable. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's no. See, what I do is I say, no, it's not unreasonable, guys. See, we can get it done. You know what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to go in and explain what we currently have on our, in terms of our workload, right? What resources we have available. If they want us to meet this deadline, here are the things that I am suggesting we get in order to do that. And so now all of a sudden it's no longer unreasonable, right? But if we stay in that space, then you just become a complainer, right? And my job has always been, right, I've taken it upon myself to strive not to be a complainer, but to be a doer, right? To excel at getting it done. Because in the end, that's what people want. They want it done.
Correct.
And I think
that's what I'm trying to, that's the point I'm trying to get. You should just, now, I don't know about Deidre, but when I interviewed, I was more looking for what you just said to me now, rather than what you said in that interview. Be direct about it. I don't find anything unreasonable. I'm the person that finds solutions. And give you the options of those solutions. Be A, B, C, or D.
Yeah, I think that's just style there, though. Diane, you're on?
Yes, good morning. I thought your interview was really great. And Deidre, I appreciated what you talked about on how to ask the questions in a variation instead of being so, mundane about what did you do here? What did you do? All of that. I thought that was important. But my question to you, Deidre, is how do you handle the nervousness? Because even listening to Eric, you can tell he is a professional interviewee because of his skills and his qualifications. I could see him coming in and being a VP anywhere. I myself don't feel as though that's secure about myself in an interview to be able to, I guess, brag on myself about the stuff that I've accomplished. How do you coach or get people to the point where they can learn how to talk about their accomplishments without feeling, reserved and losing out on a great job opportunity?
Before you answer that question, I need to say this. Vincent, your points are valid. And when I said it's a style issue, let me put that in context. Because if that was something that was important to Vincent, so if I were interviewing with Vincent, see, so part of what's required when you're interviewing is to get a sense of who your interviewer is, right? And you're dancing with that interviewer. And so Vincent not being the interviewer, I'm not trying to impress Vincent. I'm trying to impress Miss Viney. If Vincent were my interviewer, I might have taken a different approach to some things, right? So it is a matter of style, but you have to be versatile enough to be able to answer that same question truthfully, but in the style that you believe that interviewer needs in order to feel comfortable with you. So I wasn't dismissing what you were saying, Vincent. It is valid, but I want people to understand.
Oh, no, I get your point is valid also.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. I'm sorry, Deidre, the question that Diane was asking.
I like that question. I was going to elaborate on that as well. One of the things in a virtual interview, it is sometimes challenging to build rapport with the person. I did the best I could. I probably didn't do the best job on that side. Because as the interviewer, you want the interviewee to feel comfortable, to be able to give their best self forward. And if they're super nervous, as most people are, even a professional interviewee is probably nervous about the role and the person they're interviewing with, or you don't even know what might have happened a couple minutes before they walked into the room with you. And so the interviewer should try to make that person feel comfortable. But from an interviewee's perspective, one of the things I was going to say is that I always coach to this if you're interviewing, is that there are multiple times to sell yourself, right? And one of the things I will give, I did not, I thought you could have did a little bit better job of, Eric, was at the beginning, the very first question, I purposely left it open-ended when I said, walk me through your resume and your most recent work experience. I felt you could have spent a little bit more time on that. You kind of talked about dating, you talked about your consultant's jobs, but if I were you, I might have elaborated a little bit more on maybe not Dana, but maybe the job prior to that, to Dana. But back to the question of how you sell yourself the best. There are multiple chances, and I love when Eric gave that example with the $325,000 savings annually. Everyone loves to hear numbers, especially if you can quantify percentages or actual dollar amounts. I love that. So when you threw that in, I was like, that's a great one.
Yeah.
There's multiple chances to also summarize your experience. And it goes something like this, and I've coached to this when I give presentations on interviewing. At the very, very end, and Eric was prepared, he had a couple of questions, and that was wonderful. But what I would have done when I said to my display, because I'm in control, I'm the interviewer, right? But you as interviewee can take a little bit of control too. So at the end, I said, Eric, thank you for coming in. Thank you for talking to me today. It was wonderful meeting you. You might have just said, and actually, I think you did do this. Actually, you did do this. You said, is there a way I can follow up with you via phone or email?
Yes, you did.
What I would have done right then and there, that is your soapbox right there. You just say, Mrs. Viney, based on everything I heard today and based on the experience, this is why I'm the best person for the job. And give me a 2-sentence summarization of your work experience and why it ties back specifically to this job. Because that's going to be the last thing that sits in my head. Because as Vincent asked questions, I forgot about question number 2 and 3, because now I got all caught into the conversation. But if you leave me with a summary of your work experience, guys, no one's doing this. And it will set you apart. When someone does it and I interview them, I am super impressed.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly.
So Deidre, I have another question. What happens with, and I know this has happened to me many times before when I've interviewed, what happens when you feel that moment that, damn, I bombed with that answer? How do you come back from that with the next question? Or how do you keep from spiraling out of control and just giving up on the interview?
And so sometimes I do ask questions, and I'll be honest with you, they can't think of an example. Because I love, as you notice, I love asking example questions, right? Tell me an example of the time you did this. Tell me an example of the time you did that. And sometimes, because you may not have prepared, or you just really are nervous and you forgot, and you fumble, it's okay to say, can I have a minute to think about that? Even right that minute, right? I've had situations where they'll say, can I have a minute to think about that? And I'll say, okay, no problem. And I'll give them 30 seconds or so, and I'll kind of jot some notes down on my paper, and then they might answer it. Or they might come back to me. I've had people say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I really don't have an answer for that right now. Can I think about it a little bit more? And if I do come up with something, I'll come back to it. So now in your head, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, I bombed it. Now the interviewer is going to the next question. And the interviewer goes to the next question. You answer it the best you can. But keep in mind, if you do eventually come back to that example, at that summary is everything. Like to Eric's point, you don't have to answer every single question 100%. There's no right or wrong answer. It's you. It's your life. It's your work experience. And so at the end, when you're giving that summary, you might say, oh my goodness, I forgot that example when you asked me that question about this time that I had a customer that got really irate with me, but I now have an example that I would like to share with you. And this is why I'm the best person for the job. And that's a way for you to kind of clean up what you felt might have been a bad answer to a question earlier.
The other thing that I found really impressive is how comfortable Eric feels with his age. I mean, he dated himself with the CD-ROM. But look at saying that, you know what, I was at the forefront of cutting-edge technology to the point where we were so far advanced that the designers had to go to our specs to actually improve their design concept. The other part was the real genuine part of Eric's interview said, I'm looking forward to being a grandfather. It shows, future. It shows that you're going to be with the company, or at least looking for the company to provide you with some means so that you can give your grandchildren some inheritance.
Yeah.
It shows that you're looking to grow, and it shows that you are comfortable with your age,
Well, that's what you
and
say.
have a plan for what you want to do with your future as well.
So for me, the reason I answer that question like that, and this is the first time that I've done it, right? I've done that in interviews, is because I am who I am, right? And you can spend so much time in an interview trying to dodge who you are that the interviewer doesn't understand you. And so for me, it was you have my resume, Deidre, so you know how old I am, right? And if I got the phone call and I'm in the interview, then I'm gonna lean into that, right? I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna use it to my advantage, right? And so it talks about the experience that I have. So yes, I saw somebody in the thread said I dated myself when I talked about CD-ROMs, and you reiterated that, Vincent. But it shows experience, right? And so if in the end what this company is looking for, along with all of the other things, is somebody who's grounded in who's experienced, who's been there before, who can get it done, then I think that I have the advantage over somebody who might be a little younger than I am.
And I think that the reason that I asked specific question, like I mentioned earlier, about being able to learn something new, is that a lot of questions that I get from a recruiter standpoint are things about their age. And, should I put 25 years of experience on my resume, or should I narrow it down, or, should I put dates, or, and so I think that you cannot hide from who you are.
Right.
And yes, people are going to discriminate for a variety of reasons. It may be age or race or whatever. They're not going to say it. They might just do it. But I think that you can only be your authentic self. And that's all you have. And you can shed the light the best way that you can. So that particular example, Eric, remember I said you can either answer it business-wise or personal?
Right.
Because I like to say it that way, because sometimes someone might say, oh, I learned to play tennis for the very first time. That's going out of their comfort zone to learn a new sport. That is not a small feat.
Right.
It shows they're a little bit competitive. They're learning a new skill. They're getting some exercise. I mean, those are all good qualities in any employee, right? And so I love that. I love that particular question in particular, of all levels, young and old, because it really can shed a light on what the person is doing and how they're keeping themselves, up on technology or even just a new skill set. So
one of the things that I want you to talk about, Deidre, is when you're asking questions, like you said, you're looking for a variety of things. You're not just looking for one-to-one in terms of, I asked this question, I want to know how you are going to get that particular job done. You're trying to identify personality. You're trying to make a determination because you have the inside scoop in terms of those other 10 people within that department, right? So when you're interviewing me, you're looking and saying, okay, Eric's going to have to fit in with these other personalities and with the overall culture of the company. And if it's a senior level position, that means that Eric is going to be managing some of these people, right? And some of those people, because it's a person coming from the outside, not somebody being hired from the inside, who's now going to be managing us, there may be some issues there. So as you know what those things are, you're interviewing me. Just like maybe I answered the question in asking the question, but I wanted you to just kind of elaborate a little bit on the kinds of things you as an interviewer are trying to glean.
Well, this is what I got, what she was trying to glean. When you discussed the position itself, and when she gave you the relationship, that your only contact is that she would be the only person above you, and then it's her boss. What she's trying to get is to see, one, how are you going to make me look good with my boss? How are you going to relieve the pressure that I have in dealing with lower level management or other employees? And how are you looking to grow the corporation by your efforts? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it was a couple things. Because culture is really important with bringing a new person on board, especially a small organization. Because as they can say, one bad apple can really spoil the bunch.
Yeah.
And so if you bring a person in that's toxic or negative or doesn't know what they're doing, it can really impact the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to get across, again, I have to like you, right? That's important because we're going to work together every single day. And I have to make sure that you know what you're doing, right? And I mentioned that you're going to report directly to me, but you're going to have two people reporting to you. And so what kind of leadership qualities are you going to demonstrate to have those junior people rise to the occasion? So a lot of different things, there's lots of moving pieces going on in my brain all at once. And it's really sometimes challenging. I mean, we talk for 15 minutes. My interviews are typically an hour. Mm-hmm. And so as I interview and get to know you a little bit more, and if I don't think your answer was long enough, like in that particular one, that very first one, I would have actually said, well, can you elaborate a little bit more? Just like that. Sure. And let you have the floor. Because I really want you, at the end of the day, yes, unemployment's going to be high. Yes, there are going to be a lot of people on the street. Yes, it's a competitive market. But if you know your stuff and you're bringing this to the plate of a company, you have to be able to demonstrate that in the most effective way as possible in an interview. That is your time to shine. That is not your time for short answers. That is not your time for, I just want to get out of here. My hands are sweaty. Nope, not the time.
So in here, and again, guys, remember, the person that you're talking to, I mean, they're a human being that you're interviewing with, but they're also the gatekeeper. They're like, they truly are the gatekeeper. In the thread, Gaetano says, are there any red flags?
For my interview today?
Yeah.
The only one I said was at the beginning, and I won't even say it's a red flag. It was just I wanted more information. I felt that you were too short with that answer. Mm-hmm. I have interviewed people, and the red flags fly up immediately. And I can do one of two things. Sometimes I'll continue the interview because maybe I have 15 more minutes to kill, or maybe I might say, okay, thank you for coming in. It was wonderful to meet you, and I'll let you know. But there are sometimes really glaring red flags that happen right away. I didn't notice any in this particular interview. But one of the things I wanted to mention to you, Eric, and the rest of the audience, is that you gave a lot of stories, and that's because of the way I asked my questions. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you might not have an interviewer that asks questions like that, but you can still give a story. Right. So, for example, I gave in my discussion that I've done with my 10 tips is when the interview section part is if you need to kind of get those stories in your head prior to the interview. Take some time when you're home, inventory all those things that have happened to you at work, good, bad, or indifferent, how you overcame them, and I would say, honestly, 10 stories written down that you're going to remember when you have an interview. I'm not going to say you're going to use all 10 in the interview, but you might need to pluck 2 out of your memory bank. And if you've written them all down, it won't be that example that, when Diane asks if someone bombed a question or whatever, you may not have that chance because now you will say, that's right, that question about the customer service and I dealt with that one, really irate customer. I can just pluck it out of the hat, and that'll be sort of your way. And if you're not the kind of person that remembers stuff that well, I mean, I love cue cards. Keep cue cards in your, even written down, or even keep a couple of jots of your 10 stories in your phone. Mm-hmm. And then right before you go into the interview, just review your 10 stories. Like, again, you're not going to use all 10. You might just use one. I don't know, but stories sell. and people are relatable to stories. Instead of you just kind of talking esoterically about what you've done, that's important too. But a story is really going to be engaging to me, and those are it could be potentially something you deal with at the company, and so we like to hear that.
So, Deidre, and I would say less seasoned interviewers will ask very straightforward questions like, "What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?" You didn't ask those questions directly, but you asked questions in order to understand what my strengths or weaknesses were. And what did you get out of that?
Yeah, and I actually really don't like that question. What are your strengths? I don't know why. I just never liked it.
I hate that question too.
I wrote down a bunch of questions
because they always start off with the lie. I love people.
Yeah. So, but one of the questions I did write down, because I wrote down about 12 questions that I was going to ask you. I knew I was going to get to all 12, but it depends on how the conversation went. And one of the questions I wrote down, which you might actually like, is what is your strongest asset?
Oh.
And another one I wrote down is what makes you an effective leader?
All right.
So those two in particular, because of your level, I thought those might have been more specific.
Right.
Allow you to really shine, because your greatest asset, you could say that's a strength question too, but I don't know why I like the way that that's directed better, because you might say, I don't know, my communication style.
And so I'm going to answer that
but
only because of the level of comfort that I have with it, based on the experience that I had with doing it. Right? I'm going to say that again. The level of comfort I have in answering the question is based on my practical experience doing it. So I have a profound attention to detail. Now, you'll have some people who will say that. Like, oh, I pay attention to detail, or I work harder. But but the level of attention that I pay to detail is extraordinary. And
that's why to that point, Eric, I'll interrupt you, because I had a question on that, because your line of work, that is very important.
Oh, it's
so
critical.
Actually, one of the questions I actually had that I didn't even ask you was, I would have said, okay, can you give me an example of a time that required a strong level of detail? And now there's that story.
Here we go. So wait,
sky.
Let me give it to you, because it almost cost us $3 million. So
too late. Interview's over.
So yeah. But let me say this, because it almost cost, and so people don't understand this. So I had an art director, right, who didn't have a strong level of detail, but she was very, very talented. I gave her a methodology in order to help improve her level of detail. But she was actually challenging me during that entire time she was there, believing that she deserved to be the vice president in charge of creative services, right? So that was the power struggle that I had with my art director. And so I had given her a task to do. If you remember the Love's fragrance from Dana, like Dana makes like Taboo, Chantil, what are the other ones? English Leather, Old Navy, those old fragrances, right? So Love's is one of the fragrances that they make. And they have a bear. And during the holiday season, they sell this bear. Well, part of the challenge with Walmart and some of the other stores is they need to see lot numbers on those bears so that if there's a recall, they know how to recall it, right? So these bears got manufactured over in China, and when they hit Walmart, they were unpacking them, and they noticed through their regulatory people that it didn't have a lot number on it. So I go to my art director and I say, what happened? And she's now looking like a deer in headlights. But this is a $3 million fumble. $3 million. So now Eric gets called, right? Not her, because I get called first, right? Into the meeting with the CFO and the CEO and the leader of this venture capital group. And they're like, Eric, what happened? So guess who's ultimately got to fall on that sword? Because she works for me. So I gave her the methodology, right? She gave me the middle finger because she thought that she wore the big pants and she should be in my position, but now she doesn't have to deal with all of the heat that I'm dealing with. So so this goes to the unreasonableness, right? So it was unreasonable for Eric to require her to do these things, right? And so she decided that she was going to do something different. And so now when the shit, pardon me, hit the fan, guess who ran? She didn't want to be in that meeting. She now came to me, sweaty palms, right? Saying, Eric, how are we going to, because now her job, right? She wasn't concerned about Eric's job. So I was able to resolve it because I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I had a backup in the coding of how I named the file, the artwork file of the tag. So the artwork file had a date on it. So that date on it, we were able to tell the regulatory people would function as the lot number in this particular instance, so they were able to keep these things on the shelf. But it was because of my attention to detail and having a redundancy plan outside of what the other person had. So that's how I saved my job and ultimately saved her job, even though she believed that she should have been the boss.
Eric, you know what have made that? You know what would have really made that story fantastic? If you would have gave it to her when she said, "When have you ever met against an unreasonable?"
Also, to this point, Eric, and I think this is a really important point too, as you relate to this story, is that because you're going to have situations like this where you're not necessarily in control of something. So that was her job to be in control of that, and you were the manager. However, the manager, as we all know, has to oversee the workings of their employees,
right?
And then it gets turned in, because at the end of the day, right, they have to make you look good, and they don't make you look good. You got to make yourself look good.
That's right.
Right. And so, if I was the interviewer and you told me that story, I would have followed up by saying, "Okay, so Eric, what have you learned from that experience?"
Exactly.
So
now you get to show your strength.
Teachable moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but these are the kinds of things, guys. To me, this has been great. It's been a long time. It's been years since I've done an actual interview. And I did prepare. I have notes, right? I took notes. So you talked about this earlier. I got 2 pages. Oh no, we have 2.5 pages of notes, front, back, here, and here, right? So I took it seriously, guys, because
I think to your point, Eric, you always are interviewing.
Always.
Think about it. You're talking to a guest. Maybe you're not necessarily going for a job, but you're interviewing.
That's true.
You want it to sound good to your listening audience. You have to put out a presentation for you're a consultant, and you need to show them your work. You're interviewing maybe to even get that consulting gig, or even when the product is being put out, you're being interviewed again, because if the product sucks, they're going to tell you this sucks. Go back to the drawing board. So I think in life, we're always interviewing in some facet. Maybe it's not for a job, but it's in various different ways.
Yep.
Correct. And you're running for Congress, so you are actually being interviewed.
That is true too. And I shaved. We talked about that, Vincent, right?
Yeah.
Thank God. I think that's the first thing I tuned into, and I got distracted with your answer. I was like, oh my God, he shaved and a haircut.
Right. So, but part of the
appreciate
shaving, now I will tell you this, in as much as I am comfortable with my age and everything and my experience, part of shaving was because I have more gray in my beard than I do in my hair, right? And not to distract my interviewer, right? And to just put my age right out there like that, I figured shaving might make me look 10 years younger, right? I'm not hiding from it, but I'm not going to beat her over the head with it either. The other thing I did was I gave myself, and Farrakhan, you got to let me know how I did. I gave myself a haircut this morning. Now, so this, guys, because there are no excuses, right? Because you would have some people say in the age of COVID-19, well, I couldn't go get a haircut because the barbershops are not open. No. You have to seize every opportunity. So I had to figure out how to cut my own hair, right, to be presentable for a video interview. I knew I couldn't wear, well, I could have worn my ADOS hat, but then that's something that I might have had to explain. And why distract from the interview, right? So I said, you know what, Eric, you got to cut your hair. You're going to shave so you could do these things, right? And then, of course, guys, I put on a tie. And as Deidre said before, because I listen, right? No barking dogs, no distractions around me, no phones ringing. I am singularly focused on the opportunity at hand. I hope you guys are listening.
Right. That's why when I said my first comment is that I said you look very corporate. The suit, the tie, the cut, clean shave, shocked as all get out because you actually look like a CBS broadcaster, but you were not looking to be their black experience. You were looking to be the asset to the corporation.
Right. And then, Vincent, I appreciate that you noticed, even though I refer to her as Deidre on the show, I took the opportunity to be respectful and call her Mrs. Viney during the interview. I didn't call her Deidre, right? And as remember, all of these things, they're critical. They're critical. So.
And I appreciate that from the interviewer, like I mentioned last week about distractions and noise and that, because that throws me off my kilter too. I mean, I was prepared. I had my list of questions, but I could have not paid attention or have listened if someone was in the background. And so it's important for the interviewer that we can get across what we're trying to convey as well. I mean, we're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing us, and as well. And I do love your questions at the end. I thought that you did some research. Even though this is mock, I gave him a little bit of background about the organization just to kind of give him a chance, and he passed with flying colors to do some research and ask me a question or two about the company, because I think that's important. That too, I feel, is a lost art sometimes. I interview people, Eric. I interview a lot of people, and I will tell you, there's a huge portion of them that don't do basic research, don't do basic Google search, don't do basic go to the website and look up what the company's done. They might have even had a merger last week you can talk about. So I don't know where the disconnect is on people understanding that they're interviewing the company just as well as they're getting interviewed. And with that comes a basic level of research on the company and asking those questions and having them prepared ahead of time so you're not thinking off the top of your head. You know, maybe jot them down. I've had some people that come to an interview on a little cue card with their 2-3 questions. That doesn't bother me. It shows that they were prepared. Yeah. And so I appreciate that.
So, Deidre, we're saying that how do you decipher as a person that's looking for a job and looking for a career? Because I think sometimes that has the distinction as to the reason why people don't do the background search about what's going on for a company. Even if they're interviewing at McDonald's, they don't say, oh, I heard you got a new product coming out or anything. They don't talk about that stuff. They're just like, I need a job, and this is, trying to get past those questions. What should they be doing, regardless of the type of, whether it's a job versus a career?
I find that really frustrating because I think last week we talked about don't ever go into a job and say, I'll do whatever. You know, that might sound great, but you got to be real specific and real intentional about what you want to do. And even if you're only the person flipping the burgers, that's still a job that the company needs. And yes, you should at least, even if you're working at McDonald's or any retail establishment, understand their product. Just have a basic understanding of their product, because at the end of the day, from the interviewer's perspective, you're still representing my company when you're out in the street. And if someone says, where do you work? You're going to say, well, I don't know. I just flip burgers. Oh, okay. He said, just do some, nowadays, guys, there's so much information at your fingertips. There is no reason to not know 2 to 3 things about a company you're going to interview.
All right. And now, Gaetano asks me, and a very, very good question, Gaetano. He says, what does your follow-up email sound like? Okay.
So your follow-up email, which should be within 24 hours, because you want to be at the top of the brain of the person. I had talked to one person who was a great interviewee. They actually used to write their postcard. This is back in the day when we wrote letters. But the same premise, I think, exists. They would come to the interview with a card and an envelope stamped with the person's name and everything on it, and they would write it out in the lobby after the interview.
That's right.
And then they would stick it in the mailbox right outside the building.
Yep.
So similar to that is that within 24 hours, you're going to send that person an email basically thanking them for taking the time to interview with you, thanking them for, explaining a lot more details about the job and the company, and 1 to 2 reasons why you are the best person for the job. The follow-up email is also another lost art. No, I don't know what happened to that either.
Yeah.
No one's doing it.
Here's the other thing that I do.
It can set you apart from the next person. And if we're talking, we're in a highly competitive industry, and especially competitive industry, or just competitive job market, send a follow-up email to that person. And it doesn't have to be 2 pages long. It can be 1 paragraph, a couple sentences.
So here's part of the strategy I use. I employ all of the things that Deidre just said. The other thing that I use the follow-up email for is the opportunity to elaborate. See, because sometimes you get caught up in the interview, right? You might have gotten thrown by a question. You might not have given the example you wanted to give, right? Or as you walked out, you said, man, I should have said that. There's an opportunity in that follow-up to point that interviewer back to that question that they asked. And then, again, it's selling. You're selling yourself. The other thing that I do to show my interest is I try to send that email within a couple of hours after the interview. Because what I want to say is, hey, listen, I left there and I was on fire. I am the guy for this job. I want it. And so by me sending that by me sending that email out like that, says to them, hey, listen, I didn't leave here and go somewhere else, right? You were not just a part of my day. You were my entire day. And everything that I did, everything that I'm doing right now is to court you to get this job. So there are opportunities to do that as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, Eric, because as we are interviewing so many people, and sometimes we'll have back-to-back interviews. At 1 hour, you might be leaving an interview and you see 3 people out there waiting. So,
we're in a jacket you should have wore. We're in a tie you should have had on.
I think it's important that you're going to convey why you're the best person for the job, and that also lets me know you're interested.
That's right.
Because I might be like, oh, Eric's experience is amazing. He would be a great asset. He probably doesn't even want the job, or I don't even know if I can afford his salary. All these things are running through my brain. Tell me that you're the best person for the job. Tell me that you missed this one point that you just mentioned, Eric, that you forgot to mention in the interview, and why you thought saving that $3 million was a big deal. You forgot to mention it. Because we all fumble. We all make mistakes of things we could have said, we should have said. But that's a great opportunity for you to eloquently sit down, reread it, proofread it, please proofread it, and then press send.
Yeah.
Those are points.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Say that again. Read it, reread it, proofread it.
Spell check it and have somebody else look at it too.
Because
nothing's worse. Look it over.
Deidre,
that's fine. You don't want to make mistakes on a follow-up email. Wait. That's a big no-no.
Can you attest to the fact that if I were to tell you that my greatest strength was that I paid attention to detail, and then sent you an email riddled with typos?
Words
Come on.
Wrong. You splitting verbs.
Exactly. Oh, this is another good point too, Eric. So we did mock, right? And sometimes it's just one-on-one. Sometimes you never know, and I don't like this, but it does happen, where you might come into the interview and it's 2 people interviewing you. Yeah. And that's a whole other set of dynamics. Or
True.
after you've done the interview, they might say, Eric, I want you to meet Joe down the hall. You got a minute? What are you going to say? No, I got to go? No.
I got another interview that I got to be in 20
No,
minutes.
you can't. Like, to your point, Eric, this is my day. My day is interviewing this company. Don't make back-to-back-to-back interviews. And you're doing yourself a disservice because you just never know. I might say, oh my goodness, this guy's amazing. Joe's never here. Joe happens to be here today. He won't be back in the country till next month. Joe, can you take 20 minutes and talk to this guy? I think it'd be a great asset. You're not going to say no, but now you're like, oh, I got an 11 o'clock interview down the street. No, don't do that.
I had a
Question.
5-hour interview.
Oh my God.
I had a 5-hour interview, guys. And
That's
you
more
just
like
have
an
to,
interrogation.
you just have to be ready. It was exactly what Deidre said. It wasn't with one person. It was with multiple people at different levels. And then part of the interview included lunch with the department because
Did you get the job?
I turned it down, but I did get offered
Well, you got
the
a
job.
free meal.
I did. But I turned it down. But I did get offered the job. And you know what? In retrospect, yeah. So that's a whole nother story. But because this is what I did.
Prepping you.
Huh?
They should be prepping you. So when I prep my person for an interview, I will say, okay, you're going to meet with this, and this, right? If it's going to be a long interview with several hours, it's only fair to tell that person. You can't just say, oh, yeah, you're going to come meet with me, and then next thing you know, you're with me. That's not fair.
Yeah.
You're right.
You might be the kind of person that has to eat every 2 hours. You
Right.
might be the kind of person that whatever.
Yeah.
You just hadn't planned on being there all day. And so I think it's only fair that the person gives you that courtesy.
Well, what they did do. So this was at. So I don't know who asked me if I got the job. So I had a job, and I was interviewing for another job. And because I was looking for a vertical move within the company, and they weren't offering that, so I was looking for other opportunities. I went on this interview, and you know what? There's nothing like going on an interview for a job when you already got a job, right? So I went on the interview. I was super comfortable, and he asked me. He said, "Listen, do you have time?" Now, when they ask you that question, you could say no, right? But saying no says what? So of course I have time. Well, listen, I want to take you through blah blah blah. Oh, do you have additional time? I want you to do. But what I got from that was that I was impressing them each step, right? So of course, if I'm impressing you and you're now opening more doors for me, giving me greater insight into this company and allowing more people to meet me and ultimately weigh in. Because see, in the beginning, you're just weighing in, but now all of a sudden, I got an opportunity. If for some reason I had a misstep with you, now there's somebody else who I can impress who might have your ear, right? In a way that I don't have your ear because I'm just one of however many interviewees. So I went through all of these, had a great lunch, by the way. And then the reason I turned the job down is when they offered me the job, what was I able to do? I was able to go back to the company I'm working for and say to them, hey, listen, here's my letter of resignation. They say, Eric, why are you leaving? What did I tell them? Well, because I was looking for some upward mobility and you guys didn't offer it. They now had to evaluate the opportunity of losing me and then having to bring somebody else and what the learning curve would be in training somebody else. They decided not to go that route. They offered me more money. They offered me the position that I wanted. I kindly called. See, this is where you don't burn bridges too. I didn't say, hey, I got what I want. This guy took all of that effort. No. Not only did I call them, I sent them a card and I sent him a basket, right? Because he put forth a tremendous effort. And you know what? They, to this day, are one of my clients.
And that's what I was going to ask Deidre. How do you, when you get the offer and you go through all of these interviews, multiple interviews at one company, and then how do you professionally decline? Because I know my and my daughter in the teaching field, they go through these interviews that she does, and they want the teachers to come in and do a demonstration. They send them material. They want them to come back and do a demonstration. They do a one-on-one over the phone. Then they come in. Like, it's like a 3-part thing. So how do you decline once you're offered the job and you've gone through all of these hoops and you decided this is not the place for me for whatever reason? How do you professionally decline? Because everybody can't afford to send a fruit basket.
I think if you have the kind of relationship where you can pick up the phone and call that person, I think calling them is appropriate. And if they don't answer, leaving a heartfelt voicemail and following up with an email. Again, to Eric's point, you do not want to burn bridges. I can't tell you how many times people have left a bad taste in my mouth because they just didn't handle something appropriately. Because we might cross paths again. You just never know. And it's really important to just politely decline. And you don't have to give the whole elaborate reason. You guys suck. Management's terrible. No, you don't say any of that. I recommend you say none of that.
Right.
But what I would just say is, I respectfully decline the offer. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, an offer for your company. And you might want to say what you're going to do. I don't know. You might say, I've taken another offer at a different company, or I've decided to stay at my current company, whatever that is.
Right.
But I think that a follow-up email or a phone call is certainly appropriate. If you get the person on the phone, if they answer the phone because they've given you their card with their direct extension, they might ask more questions. It depends on whatever comfort level you had. But like to Eric's point, you never know where you might bump into that person. It may not even be at that company.
Yeah.
They may go somewhere else. And I have heard this time and time again. My sister's a classic example. She gets let go at a company, left a great impression. Her boss also gets let go after her. Because, they make the boss fire the people, right? Or lay them off.
Yeah.
And then they fire them.
Her boss got a new job at a different company. Who did he call first?
There you go. And then you know what that's called? That's called building your network. Building your network. If you you got to value each of those moments, right? So if I get a phone call from Miss Viney for an interview, I'm gonna value that. Right? And I'm selling for this job opportunity, but I'm selling beyond this job opportunity. I'm selling to build a relationship, right? So that I stick out beyond this job, right? So Ms. Viney, when she needs a go-to, she's got this perfect opportunity. I want her to think about Eric Dawson and that great interview we had and that follow-up email I sent and that follow-up phone call.
You know what I just thought about, Eric? This is why I'm going to go back to my shameless LinkedIn plug. So and I've used this multiple times. I've interviewed people. They followed up with me. We connected on LinkedIn. Guess what I'm doing when they turn me down? I'm going on LinkedIn. Oh, let me find Eric Dawson.
Yeah.
What is he up to now?
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I might even probably still have your phone number in my Rolodex. Or I'll just shoot you an email and say, hey, Eric, I know you turned the offer down 5 years ago. But guess what? This other opportunity has just presented itself. Where are you in your career? Are you looking for a job? Are you in the market for anything? Or, hey, how about this? You know anybody that's just as good as you?
Yep. There you go. And then I want to, maybe not today, but I want to talk about referring people in a future episode. Because that's important too, right? But back onto this thing. One of the other things that I do, guys, this is part of the work. I have not a Rolodex anymore, right? The contacts in my phone of some of the people I interviewed with, some of the agencies that I interviewed with. I still send them notes. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, season greetings. I sent out COVID-19 well wishes to them. Hey, hope your family's doing well. See, I'm not, so you say, well, you're not looking for a job right now. No, but I'm looking to firm up the relationship. Always looking to firm up the relationship and to be in the forefront of their minds. How many people do you think about this? So when I said to you guys, understand this, right? Because it goes through my very fiber, paying attention to detail. How many of those other people that I walked past in the waiting room who went in to interview for those jobs that I went in, how many of those people sent them COVID-19 well wishes? How many of those people are still sending them season's greetings and things like that? I have gone through with some of them the birth of their children, or their children not going off to college, and we're in touch. And Deidre, I get those emails from them from time to time. Hey, Eric, listen, I know you're not in the market for a full-time job, but I got this opportunity, man. A client's in a crunch, needs to be able to get this done, is working on a tight budget, right? But they know what? They know Eric is a guy who's paying attention to detail. They know Eric is a guy who can pull a team together. They know all, and so they say, hey, you step up to the plate, Eric, because I know you're going to make me look good in this instance.
And send a flower basket.
And send a flower basket. But listen, you gotta work it. You gotta work it.
Absolutely.
You have to work it. You have to be willing to work it.
Well, if we go to
And so,
next
can I
week-
say this last thing before you jump in?
Yeah.
Because this is, if you take nothing else away, think about this. Whatever job you're going for, I'm interviewing for it too. So now think about that. Think about you going up against me in an interview. Are you ready? Because there's somebody better than me who may be interviewing for that same job you're interviewing for. So if you don't go in with your best, with your A game, don't whine when you don't get a phone call back. See, because I'm going to cut my hair, I'm going to shave my beard, I'm going to put my Windsor knot on, and I'm going to go in and kick ass in the interview.
Yep. What I was going to say, Eric, is that we talked about referrals, and I really want to take a lot of time next week talking about that, because that is one that's near and dear to my heart as well. It sounds like it's for you as well. Is building up your network and working your network, right? Working it to the best of your ability, even when you're not necessarily looking for a job. Or, a lot of times you have friends and colleagues, and I have children, and they're going to be looking for jobs. And so I'm building networks for my children as well, because they're starting to build theirs. And so that this web of networking is so, so, so critical. And it can't just be when you're looking for a job. I mean, that's important too. But it's a lot of different things, like you say in the holiday cards, or sending someone a quick email, and back to LinkedIn, when someone posts an article, you're commenting on it and checking on their family.
Yes.
All those things are how that you keep your network alive, and then people think of you when you may not have talked to them in 3 months.
Yeah.
Those are so critical. So
I'm
I give a lot of
always
good
trying to
tips on
figure
that.
out how to separate myself from the crowd. How do I separate myself? What do I do that nobody else is doing? There was I always tell this, this is when I was growing my dreadlocks. And so every time I see you, Deidre, I miss my locks. But I remember being in New York and talking to some Rastafari, and they said to me, he said, we were talking about hard work, and he said, listen, he said, Eric, he said, remember this. He said, while a man be sleeping, the Rasta be tinking, man. And so I'm always thinking, always. I'm telling you, I'm on your heels every day. Every day. And if you operate like that somebody's on your heels every day, you have no time to relax. You have no professional development. What new thing can I learn? Where did I make a mistake? Where can I get better? Where am I willing to put myself out there so people can critique me? And I know, and I think I talked about this before, and my good friend, former Mayor Eldridge Hawkins, is in the thread. When I first started doing this show, El used to call me up, and he said to me, or should I say former Mayor Hawkins, used to call me up, and he used to say, Eric, you say a lot. You say too much. You have to work on saying Now, I could have gotten in my feelings about it. Right? Well, who is he to tell me that? He doesn't even have a show. He's not doing anything. But I didn't do that. I took it as an opportunity to be better. Then El one day called me up. He said, yo, man, listen, I got to tell you, I was watching your show. He said, wow. He said, you blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, but because I listened to you.
So to that point, Eric, there is a reason and a season that people practice and they rehearse. When you play in the NBA, you don't just have a game on Tuesday and just show up on Tuesday. No, they've been practicing. When you have a play, you rehearse. When you have a presentation, you practice. You get someone to look at it. And back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with our resume, you're going to get someone else to look at it because that is your presentation. So you can't just go out cold with just because that's the way you think people are doing it. We might look like we're all put together because we practice, we've rehearsed. And to your point about I took a public speaking class in college, and that changed my life because I had no idea a lot of things that I was doing. And now I had my peers and my professor critiquing me. And this is before the age of light. I'm gonna show my age a little bit. No one's recording me on a camera or a cell phone. They're just after I'm done, they're giving me critiques.
Yeah.
Eventually we got to the point that they videotaped me or audio taped me, and I had a chance to listen to myself, and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta fix that. That's not good. Because I too was the subject of the and I had to work super hard to get rid of them because it's bothersome to the person listening as well.
Yeah,
that you're doing that.
Can I give one more thing that folks listen? I gotta put the mic down to do this. And when you interview, have you seen young men do this, Deidre, when they're interviewing? They start rubbing the top of their hair, pulling their hair like this when they're interviewing. If you can't see me, if you're just listening, right, I'm stroking my waves, right? I'm pulling them as I'm talking to you. Please don't. You have to work on it. Sit down in front of a mirror. Put your hands, either sit on your hands or put them on your lap, cross them, figure out what you can do to keep them out of the way.
Yes. You're not comfortable in your skin when you are fidgeting.
And that's why I think it's important that you practice an interview. Because one time I interviewed with someone, and for those that don't have not seen me on video, I've interviewed someone that done this. They had a pen in their hand, and they clicked it the whole time. And I had to say to them, "Can you please stop?" But someone may not be as nice as I am. They might just say, "Okay, thank you for coming in." Yeah. So if you don't realize there are certain things, I think Vincent mentioned earlier about the mug that you pulled up. If there are certain things you do, you probably don't realize you're doing them until someone brings it to your attention. And that's why it's important to get feedback. And this is someone that you love, someone that you know is going to give you honest feedback. It's really important. You don't need someone to say, "Oh yeah, you did a great job. Good luck. See you. Good job tomorrow." No, you want to get some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I want good feedback too. Yeah. So I love how Vincent led with the good feedback. And he's this is some things you can change.
Listen, when he was giving the good feedback, I knew he had the 2x4 behind his back.
We are a work in progress.
What do you mean 2x4?
Crowbar. But listen, the idea is to get you guys better, to get you better, and put you in the best position for that opportunity. Because it's going to come. And when it comes, will you be ready?
And it's important to note to as well, Eric, that we interview at Express, we interview all levels of employment. So we will interview a general laborer to an executive assistant. And I have recruiters on both sides. And one of the things resoundingly I notice when it comes to our industrial side is they don't take our interview seriously. They come into the interview, they keep their hat on, they do what you did with your hair, they check their cell phone, they answer the phone while you're interviewing. Again, we're a staffing company. Maybe they don't think this is a real interview. Maybe they just think I'm going to send whoever out to the job. Nope, wrong answer. Because at the end of the day, everyone that we send out is a representation of my firm. If you're going to come to an interview and you're going to check your phone or you're going to answer your phone or chew gum or whatever you're going to do, I'm going to assume you're going to do that same exact thing when I send you out for my client. And sometimes my client might want to interview you, or even if it's an immediate start. I think the important point is this, is that folks need to take an interview, any level of interview, very seriously.
Yeah.
Very seriously.
Chew gum, gum chewing. No. Now, can I give you guys?
Not chewing gum, but popping the gum.
No, not even. No. Not even chewing gum. No chewing gum. No, Vincent. Don't even. No, forget about popping it. Don't even chew it. Cell phone off. Turn it off. In fact, don't just mute it. Like, turn it off. So can I give you guys a and then Vincent, Diane, and then because I want to try to end this on a funny note. Can I give a funny interview story?
Sure. Yes, please.
So I had this interview, and how can I say it? I mean, it is just what it is with me. And they can't figure it out. I don't know if it's hormonal or whatever, but I sweat a lot, right? And so I had this job interview in New York. And so I got all dressed up and I'm ready to go, take the train over. There's no air conditioning on the train. So I'm sweating, right? I'm sweating through my shirt. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh God, I'm sweating. Like I'm sweating through my shirt. And so now what happens as I'm sweating through my shirt, I'm getting more nervous. I'm sweating more. And it's just getting worse. I get off the train. This is a God honest truth. I have completely saturated my shirt now. But I don't stop. See, I don't stop. I keep going, right? I could have turned around and gone home. I said, nope, I'm going to figure this out. I get in a cab, figure I could start drying off in a air conditioned cab, right? So I take my jacket off. I'm fanning myself with my portfolio pieces, trying to dry off the front, because if the back is still saturated, that's cool. They don't know.
Oh, you got stress sweat.
Right. So I get out of the cab. I gotta walk. So now I'm walking. It's 90 whatever degrees. It's a little humid. So I'm starting to sweat again. I get on the elevator. I go there. Literally, sweat is dripping down. I wipe it. I say to the receptionist, I'm here. Now I'm 15 minutes early for my interview. I said, Eric Dawson, I'm checking in for my interview. I go into the bathroom. They had the hair dryer, like the hand dryers. I took my shirt off.
Like that commercial?
I took my shirt off. I'm drying my shirt in the bathroom because I'm saying to myself, I'm gonna be the best I can be given my circumstances. I gotta play the cards I'm dealt. I dried the front, right? Because again, I'm thinking I can't dry the whole shirt, so I gotta dry the front. Make sure that's done. Dried it, tied my knot back. Got everything on, jacket on, my portfolio pieces together. I went in, I killed the interview, got the job, and the point that I'm making is this: that there will be adversity, right? And you'll think that is a calamity of like a comedy of errors at times. You'll be like, I can't believe this next thing happened. Oh my God, I can't believe this next thing happened. Those are the moments where all the stuff you write down about who you say you are, you now have to rely on. You got to rely on all of those things. You got to pull all together. And that was my interview before my interview. So when I got in there and I sat down, I had already gone through my interview. At that point, I knew. Because I'm sitting there, I said, he has no idea what I just went through. But I pulled it all together. And I'm sitting here now composed, bring it on. And I got the job. So there are no excuses. Not in my book. None.
So as they say, Eric, never love to see you sweat.
No. Listen, everybody else saw me.
Extra strokes of that roll on, please.
Listen, man. It is my curse. I don't know why, but I do. I sweat profusely. But I worked it out. Anyway.
You need that extra strength secret stuff, the special for sweating.
Yeah, but it's everything. And you know, I wear.
Yeah, he need African American Mitchum.
I need a portable air conditioner to travel with me wherever I go.
Well, I think your larger point is a good point, because if it's not you sweating out your suit, it could be that the train is delayed. It has nothing to do with you. Now there's a medical emergency that's not you, and now you can potentially be late to an interview, or it could be a barrage of things. Your heel broke on the way walking up the steps to the place.
So, Deidre, quickly, how do you explain that? Because I've been on interviews and gone to New York City and gotten lost trying to get to the place and be so frantic.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, do I call them and tell them I'm lost and it's 5 minutes before me supposed to be there and I should have been there? Like,
absolutely. It is customary to call. Please don't email, because you're assuming that we're living on our email. If you have that person's phone number, please call them and leave them a message, or if you speak to someone that answers the phone, say, listen, I had an interview with Eric Dawson at 11. I am a little turned around. Can you confirm the address, or whatever the situation, or the train, especially up in this metro area, we're so used to issues with trains or buses or accidents. That's why it's important that you prepare, ladies and gentlemen. You're trying to eliminate as much problems as you can, but there's still going to be situations that happen. I don't recommend you get to an interview an hour early. Eric gave the example of 15 minutes, but I would get into the city an hour early.
Yeah.
Because I understand how challenging the dynamics are of just getting to Manhattan, right? Even if you live only 20 minutes away, the trains and subways. So get there an hour early, go sit in a coffee shop and have a cup of coffee, relax yourself, go over your resume. Now you're composed, because what you don't want to happen is you're rushing in because you got lost, or it's raining, you forgot your raincoat, you forgot your umbrella, now you're soaking wet. Now you're frantic and you can't focus, and you want to show your best self then. It may not be your best self, because now you're stressed out over what you just went through.
And listen,
so
Diane,
try to limit those things by getting there early.
And I want to say this to you too, Diane. It depends, right? I want to say that every job interview is important, and they are, but they're tiers of importance, right? So there have been job interviews that I've had. So let's say Ms. Viney scheduled an interview for next Thursday with me. If I had the time between now and next Thursday, and if I'm not familiar with the area, I may go to that area prior to, so I know where it is, so I don't get turned around. Depends, right? So if I rate that interview on a scale from 1 to 10 in terms of a career path for me, if I say, oh my God, that is a dream job, then what I'm doing is I'm calculating all of the things that could possibly go wrong. And I am trying to mitigate by doing everything I can, including going to that place early so that I can see exactly where it is.
That makes sense. Yeah. It only happened to me one time. After that, I learned. It'll never happen again.
Getting there late one is one that happens. And unfortunately, sometimes you might call them and they may say, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to reschedule you because I had a back-to-back interview.
Yep.
And that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to happen is you to show up 15 minutes late and then tell me the story. Nope, too late, because now I've already first impression is a lasting impression. So now I've already formulated that she can't even be on time for an interview. Really?
Now, you know what? I'm going to say this, and this really happened yesterday. You know I was looking for a landscaper, right? I mentioned it on the show. At the end of the show, I got a couple phone calls with phone numbers, or text messages rather, with phone numbers for people. Hey, Eric, try this person. Hey, Eric, here's a person I'm recommending. Here's another person. So I contacted 2 people, right? Both people said they were going to come by yesterday. One person came by, and I talked to you about this, Diane, right? Where guy wanted to charge me one price. I told him another price. We went back and forth. We negotiated. We agreed on a price. Now, he was going to come back today to cut the lawn, but me being a guy who's a negotiator, I'm waiting for the other guy to come. Because now if the other guy comes, I already got a price. If I can get this guy to do at least this amount of work for less, or if he shows himself to be a more competent guy for the same price, then I'm now going to call the other guy and say, hey, listen, I had another guy come and now I can negotiate, right? So that was my plan. The second guy never showed up. Then texted me about 11 o'clock last night and said that he ran late on a job but would come by today. I kindly sent him a note saying, don't worry, found somebody. See, now that was with a landscaper, but it's the same thing with that's because that was an interview too, right? So no matter what interview you get, now had he called me and said to me, hey, Mr. Dawson, we have 2 more projects, 2 more, clients that we have to service. I would understand that because there's certain things you understand in an industry,
Absolutely.
right? So I would understand it. And so if he said to me, well, when, can I come by later on tonight, or would it be too late? What about tomorrow morning? Now, because in my head, I'm still trying to get the best price. This guy who's going to come today wasn't going to come till about 2 o'clock. He's going to come about 2 o'clock. So I could have given him a window to come prior to 2, right? And even if I said to the guy, because I don't want to be a jerk, he's already said to come, I'll have him do it this time, but then say, hey, listen, because now that guy might look and say, well, you know what, Mr. Dawson, since we already agreed on today's rate, I'm going to do it for this, but I want you to be my client, so I'm willing to do it for less than that guy or what that guy now offered you. But keep it open. But this guy, he just blew me off 11 o'clock. 11, you guys can't function like that. You got to be better on all levels.
Nope.
So anyway, I hope, Deidre, I appreciate you so much. I told you this morning prior to the show. I value what you bring. I think that it is an insight that many of our folks don't have, right? But they need. My hope is that on the shows that you're on, and then I hope they tune into your podcast and stuff too, but that they take advantage of it, take advantage of you and the information that you're given to make them better people, and then better interviewers, and then better employees.
Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that. So I am giving my 10 tips tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I can put the link in on Facebook if anyone wants to register. It's the 10 tips to finding a job now. We elaborated eloquently today on one of our tips on interviews. But there's 9 other tips that I think you should hear about, and my presentation is about 30 minutes. It also opens for Q&A. So I welcome anyone that wants to come to the presentation.
All right, guys. Any parting words, Diane or Vincent?
Nope, you did a great job, great interview. Deidre, always a pleasure because you are a wealth of information.
She is.
Like Eric says, I hope people take advantage of this free service, this opportunity that you're giving, because usually this is something people would have to pay for when coaching.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a great interview. Eric, you brought out a great deal of high points. I think you met your objectives. Deidre, I think that you're an excellent interviewer. And, I mean, you're just bringing so much information for people who are looking to improve their lives. And I'm hoping that people take this and have success with it. Not only that, but also give back and train and explain to other people some of the techniques that you've learned, too. Once again, I mean, this is another great Eric Dawson show. So, from everybody, I like to say, stay safe. God bless.
Hey, we're trying. You guys be good. Deidre, thanks again. Diane. And Deidre, we gotta work out this baking thing.
Yes. Yes, Eric.
We gotta work this baking.
You need to work out the baking thing, because you just be slagging on the ideas of what you make and pictures on my site, and
wait a minute. Did you see?
Anything.
Did you see? Hey, Deidre, maybe, you know what? we'll talk about this because I want to do once the COVID-19 thing is over. I really want to do maybe a Saturday hour-long like cooking conversation show, right? Where we cook and
can I come in and taste it?
Cook and
Cooking conversation.
No,
Cooking conversation.
See, I gotta. No, don't give names because people. Yeah, don't give names because people will take the names. But we're gonna come up with a name, and then we cook, and we, and we'll figure the name of it out. But you understand what I'm saying? Yesterday, I told Vincent, I made I've done the traditional poached egg where in the boiling water with a little bit of vinegar, right? You create the swirl with the water, you crack the egg, and you let it poach for 3 minutes, and then you take it out. I got these little silicone poachers off of Amazon for like $5. You put it, and it just kind of floats like a boat in the pot, and then you crack the egg right in there. No fuss, no muss. You put the lid on, it poaches in about 3 minutes. I'm going to make one when we're off the show today, but it was beautiful. I plated it with some slice of homemade bread with a slice of melted cheese on it, right? Monterey Jack. And then put that thing on with just a little bit of freshly crushed pepper. See, I want to do stuff like that, right? So we can present desserts, foods, we could present healthy options for stuff, and then we can just dish about all kinds of stuff. Like Diane's always got pop culture stuff, and I'm sure you do too, Deidre. So we can do that. But anyway, let's have that conversation. I'm excited about it. Something else that we can add.
Yes, I love it.
All right. So guys, look forward to that post COVID-19 because trying to do it with the masks on, social distancing, it just won't be the same. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love you all. I really do. And I enjoyed today's show. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye-bye.